Viewer discretion is advised.
Okay. You are listening to Wine and Crime, a podcast where two friends chug a wine, chat through a crime, and unleash their worst accents Italiano. Oh! I'm Amanda.
Soy Lucy.
Oh, we should look up what that
Anything in Italian.
Google Translate. From English to Italian.
Can everyone guess what our topic is for this week?
Don't worry about it. My name is Amanda. Mi chiamo Amanda.
Oh, mi chiamo Lucy.
Oh, prego, mi chiamo Amanda. Oh my
Ravioli.
God. Ravioli. Yes, this week we are discussing, is this a gal's pick? This is us, right?
Yeah, because it comes out during the week when we're
in Italy right now. As you
hearing
listen
our
to
voices
this,
from Italy.
sadly not recording from Italy. Actually, fortunately not recording from Italy because that would be a nightmare.
No, I got other shit I want to do in Italy.
No, we'll be too drunk. But this week, our topic is Italian crimes.
Oh, crime of the Italian sort.
And I did not talk about the mob at all today. Did you?
No.
Look at us!
Nice.
We are rejecting Italian stereotypes as we use some probably very problematic accents. But you know what? We're trying our best. Grazie. So that is our topic for this week because as you listen to this, we are with a small portion of the wine coven rocking around Rome and Florence. I'm probably getting a blister right now from some tour of the Colosseum.
I'm applying. There are Band-Aids on my heels.
Guaranteed.
As you listen.
Guaranteed. Which reminds me, I do need to pack like good Band-Aids, some first aid, good socks for all of the walking around, my good sneaks.
Gas X.
Oh, so much Gas X. One of the things I'm the most excited for are the wine glory holes.
Yeah.
Just holes in the walls of the shops along the streets where you could go up and order a glass of wine and they just shove a fistful of wine through the hole at you.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
Isn't there only one of those left? Or am I
know.
thinking of something else?
I don't know, but I did recently see a TikTok featuring one of those wine glory holes, and I was like, it's happening! Danielle!
There's been a fire.
There's been a wine glory hole. So yeah, that's what's happening this week. I'm very excited about my case and very excited to hear what you have selected for us today. But before we get to that, let's talk about some wine, shall we?
We shall.
Wouldn't it be funny if I just didn't pick an Italian wine for this episode?
Kim Crawford.
We're going to talk about this Wisconsin winery with Concord grape. No.
It's a table wine.
It's a Concord grape table wine. It grows heartily in the cold climate.
Goes great with an ice cube.
Oh, yum. But no, I'm not doing that to you because today I am drinking. We are drinking. The world is drinking. The 2020 Sapore Locale.
Oh.
It's such a beautiful bottle and it features ceramic art by an Italian artist, which I think is pretty cool.
Very nice.
Cat Odell. Cactus pot by Italian artist. Oh, the photograph is by Cat Odell. Cactus pot by the Italian artist Forlín Antonio of Don Corleone in Taormina, Sicily. Crushed it.
You and I are both going to be struggling with some names today.
They're never going to know that we're American tourists because our Italian is so flawless. But this bottle is an Italian Sangiovese, which is one of my favorite varietals. She's a bold, dry red with a softer finish. She is acidic. That's like a known quality of Sangiovese, but a little bit less harsh in the tannin category. This kind of wine, a Sangiovese in particular, is going to pair really well with Italian staples like beef dishes, lamb, pasta with
Ossobuco.
red sauce. Oh my God. Oh, that reminds me of the dinner party episode of The Office. Oh, no. The ossobuco just takes like 4 hours to braise and then we'll be ready. Okay, so you started like 4 hours from now. Sangiovese.
Oh, sorry.
No,
I have
please.
to interrupt you.
Please.
My mom reminded me / told me that in like the dinner course in Italy, your pasta is like your starter.
Oh.
And then your main is like a meat dish. So because
Yes.
the last time she went there, she didn't want all the meat. She just wanted the pasta, which like I don't blame her. So she just lied and said she was vegetarian the whole time.
Baby,
No
I'll
meat.
eat your meat.
Mm-mm.
I
I'm
will
gonna eat
handle your
all of
meat.
it. Oh, good.
Anything you don't want, you just stick it under the table for me like a dog.
Just use my fork and scrape it off my plate into your mouth.
Yes, done. I promise to be that friend for you forever.
You're such a good friend.
Thank you. I know. You're correct.
You're welcome.
You are welcome. You're welcome. Sangiovese is on the acidic side, so that's why it pairs so well with these types of foods because it cuts so beautifully through like fats and spices. With pairing wine with food, the kind of typical way you want to go is either matching the properties. So an acidic wine going with, say, a pasta with red sauce, the acidity of the tomato is going to pair really well, or go opposite. So like acidity with fatty meats, cheeses. It's just, oh my God, my mouth is fucking already watering. It's just going to cut right through that, keep you with like a nice, clean, fresh palate between each bite. So you can just really enjoy your plate, which I'm super excited about. From this particular bottle, you might get hints of leather, cherry, some oregano, though I may not be able to get those hints because I think I fucked up my palate today.
Did you burn your mouth?
No. I got a little too close to an oil-based scent roller that touched the tip of my nose.
Hold on. Okay, like a perfume thing?
Yeah, I was co-working with Robbie and he got this new scent and was having me sniff it and I don't know, was trying to be funny and I like moved my nose, hovered my nose over it back and forth and it like brushed my nose and now I just have this like oil streak right on my nose and I can't stop smelling. It smells really good, but it's like
nothing smells that good for that long.
all I can smell is like pine and bergamot. But I'm gonna do my best over here. I'm gonna sniff it hard. I'm gonna sniff it long and see what I come up with.
Perfect.
This Sangiovese hails from the Puglia wine region of Italy, which is like up along the heel of the boot, right up the back of that sexy boot.
Puglia.
I looked it up.
I know. But it looks like Puglia.
It does look like Puglia. Puglian wine is the product of a diverse landscape. So half of Italy's olive oil is also produced in the dry heat of this Puglia region. The warm climate and fertile soil make it easy to grow almost anything. And this region is surrounded by water on 3 sides, allowing cool breezes off the Mediterranean to moderate vineyard temperatures. Because Sangiovese, it's actually kind of perfect for this because it can get a little moody. Like it wants some of that dry heat, but if it's too hot, and this applies to a lot of different grapes, but if it gets too hot, then the grapes over ripen and it can just totally fuck the flavor profile of these grapes. So it's like you're working together with the heat, the soil, and then the cool Mediterranean breeze that I'm sure are feeling right now at this moment. As you listen to this. Sangiovese is a red grape varietal that derives its name from the Latin sanguis Jovis, or blood of Jupiter.
Ooh, that's
Isn't
cute.
that fucking awesome?
I like it.
I know. Drops of Jupiter in her blood.
Blood drops of Jupiter.
Blood drops. Sangiovese has shown itself to be adaptable to many different types of vineyard soils, but seems to thrive in soils with high concentrations of limestone. So that might be why it does so well in this area, having the potential to produce elegant wines with forceful aromas, hopefully forceful enough to get through my oil roller. Sangiovese-based wines have the potential to age, but the vast majority of Sangiovese wines are intended to be consumed relatively early in their lives. This is a 2020. It's now 2024. So we're like right in that sweet spot. We really don't want to let this sit too much longer or it starts to lose some of those, iconic Sangiovese flavor notes. It can kind of mellow out. It can also start to get a little vinegary as it ages.
We don't want that.
We don't want that. So I'm going to pop this open. My house is a disaster, so I do not have a clean wine glass. We've been doing a lot of house projects, and that means other things like clean dishes get neglected sometimes. Okay.
That's okay.
Are you drinking anything today?
No, I didn't have time.
That's okay.
I've just been running around all day.
I get it. Well, this pops for you, babe.
Oh.
Deep,
Bueno
sensual pop.
Bill, no. Wait. I don't know.
Prego. I can smell this.
Good.
It does smell good.
Cuts through the pine.
Yeah, it is very aromatic.
Mm.
Here we go. Oh, fuck, that's good. God damn. It's so nice. Like it hits, the sweetness of it hits first, and then it settles into that acidity with the dry finish. You really get the leather on the back end. I'm a big fan of this. This is, uh-oh. Mandy might get drunk this epi.
Oh no.
Oops. Well, cheers to you and your Benjamin, which I'm sure is not far from you at this very moment.
She's right here. Got my pen, got my stand.
I love how I was on a virtual call with my doctor yesterday. I was getting established with a new GI team to like fix my guts. And they were asking me about, my indulgences. And I was like, I barely drank. And now here I am. I'm going to take down this whole fucking bottle the day after. I guarantee it.
Proud of you.
Thank you. Lucy, qual è il nostro background e la nostra psicologia per I crimini italiani?
Cremini Italiani. Oh, I'll remember cremini.
Yeah, we will.
Like the mushroom.
Yes, crime mushroom. Oh my God.
Cremini.
Which, Dio mio.
Well,
I'm going to be on this Googie Translate all day.
I got to download the app.
Oh, yeah. I have my Translate app ready to rock.
So I wanted to get into the history, but Italy's history is a mess.
It's buck. It's a lot.
It's a lot. And then there was like a really long period of time when like nothing happened. I don't know.
God bless them. They
it was
earned
off.
It. Something was off. Too quiet.
Suspiciously.
Mm-hmm.
So what is now the country of Italy has been inhabited by humans since at least 850,000 years ago.
What?
Yeah.
Care?
Since classical antiquity, ancient Etruscans, various Italic peoples. Like, do you think they're just like stand at a slant?
Yeah, when you say it, you have to lean to. Is that why the Tower of Pisa is leaning? Did I just blow your mind?
Is it?
The silence. Is it?
Did they do it on purpose? Is that why they call slanted letters italic?
Let me find out. Why do they call slanted letters italic? The name comes from the fact that calligraphy-inspired typefaces were first designed in Italy to replace documents traditionally written in handwriting style called chancery hand.
Okay, so not the tower.
Italics derive from Italic peoples.
Okay.
Italy.
Such as the Latins, Samnites, and Umbri. Also, in this region were the Celts or Celts.
It's Celts.
The basketball team ruined it for me. They're the Celtics.
Mm-hmm.
Stupid.
Don't say that around my Aunt Gail. She will fucking clock you. She is such a Celtics fan. It's wild.
It would be an honor to get clocked by Aunt Gail.
Honestly, that is true. She is
She'd
an
also
icon.
punch me into the next room.
She might. She's strong. She's a nurse.
Yeah.
She's a nurse practitioner. She'll punch you and then she'll treat you.
Yeah, because of the Hippocratic Oath.
Yep. My aunt would never actually punch you, but
we'll push that theory. Also, Magna Graecia colonists.
Okay.
So that just meant like Greek-speaking people were just kind of spreading out.
Mm-hmm.
And other ancient peoples have inhabited the Italian peninsula, the boot.
Mm-hmm.
Rome was founded as a kingdom in 753 BC.
But it wasn't built in a day, am I right?
It was not, presumably, an oddly specific year for them to cite 753 BC when Rome took like a trillion years to...
Yeah.
It wasn't a day.
No.
Anyway, then it turned into a republic in 509 BC.
Luck.
The Romans formed a confederation with like all those other people that I mentioned and rose to dominate Western Europe, Northern Africa, and the Near East. The Roman Empire.
Mm-hmm. How often do you think about it?
I should think about it more often.
I never think about it.
You're thinking about it right now.
I mean, I'm thinking about it right now, but I never think about it like on my own, unprompted.
Yeah,
I think about it when it's mentioned.
I think about a lot of other things way more that I think are probably more interesting.
Lady Diana, the Titanic, the fucking Titan submersible,
The owl theory.
the owl. Oh my God. Listen, if you are not a patron, become one at any level just to hear Lucy's interview with Dr. Titty Smith.
Titty Smith.
This spooky little bitch interview with Titty Smith, one of the most delightful interviews I've ever listened to. And I'm not going to lie.
He's a Kiwi.
He's a Kiwi. It kind of moved the dial for me on owl theory. I didn't realize how much evidence was omitted in support of that theory, and that like there were feathers kind of everywhere.
There was poop on the stairs.
Bird poop.
Yeah. I should have clarified.
I got you. Anyway, join our Patreon. Continue.
Thank you for that shout out. That was a great
you're
interview.
welcome. You're
I
welcome.
love Titty. I love the owl theory.
Same.
So yeah, that is my Roman Empire. Okay, so then Caesar was murdered in the year 44 BC. The Roman Empire contributed heavily to the development of Western culture like science, art, music, government. It was a big deal. And then it finally fell in 476 AD.
It was, it had a good run.
It had a good run, and there were like a trillion reasons why it fell. And all of those reasons were exacerbated by like bad weather. So I started reading it, and then I'm like, there are too many parallels. There's like famine, extreme weather, horrific elections. It is 2024. It is October of 2024.
And we're still doing this shit.
It's too close to home. And actually, this episode comes out, I think, right after the election.
I voted, and we'll be watching it go down from Rome. Potentially watching our own empire fall.
Kind of ironic that we're going to be in Rome.
Ironic and iconic.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so it fragmented into a bunch of city-states, it meaning Italy, the things that are Italy right now, fragmented into a bunch of city-states, including the Papal States, which were under the direct rule of the Pope for over 1,000 years.
And doesn't like Vatican City still have its own kind of mini government and jurisdiction?
We'll get to Vatican City.
Okay.
Do you want to go?
I do, actually. I've been binge watching this show. It's 2 seasons of it are on Netflix. It's on Paramount Plus. It's called Evil.
Ooh.
It's basically X-Files, but they get assigned things to investigate from the Catholic Church.
Cool, like
yeah,
possessions and
sometimes they perform exorcisms. There's possessions, there's demons. I love it. It's been a hell of a ride. There's 4 seasons.
I can't wait. Oh, there's another Netflix show that MJ popped into my notes. So we got a lot of Netflix to catch up on.
Here we go.
Okay, so the formation of the modern Italian state began in 1861 with the unification of most of the peninsula, because again, it's still like a patchwork of God only knows what.
Yeah.
Well, people know what, but I don't know what. So there's this like royal family called the House of Savoy. And so a bunch of the neighboring fragments were like, yeah, we like them. So Savoy kind of got everyone together and made the Kingdom of Italy.
Okay.
Italy incorporated Venetia and the former papal states, including Rome, by 1871, so within 10 years, following the Franco-Prussian War. Again, did not get into it. It's a mess.
Yeah, that's a dooze.
It's a dooze. Before the Italian unification, which was known as the Risorgimento.
Nailed it.
The U.S. had diplomatic relations with the main entities of the Italian peninsula. So those were the Kingdom of Sardinia, the Kingdom of the Two Sicilies, and the Papal States. So even though Italy wasn't the Italy that we know it as today, the U.S. had like relations with them. And everyone was pretty chill with each other at this point. So it didn't take much for them to be like, okay, we're just going to be one country. We all have the same goals.
Yep.
It'll be cheaper.
Yeah.
So, God, we can't talk about any sort of country or region or state without talking about the flag.
Got to. I've been waiting for this. How many severed legs in a wheel are we going to have on this bad boy?
We'll get to the severed legs.
I've been dreaming about it.
I mean, the Italian flag is pretty fucking straightforward. It's just the green and the white and the red and the vertical bars. That's it. But because of all this fractious backstory, Italy has a long history of various flags and coats of arms dating back to the 1200s. Due to this lack of national unification until really relatively recently, there was no recognized flag representing all Italian populated areas. The nationalism that was inspired by the French Revolution led to the creation of political and military groups dedicated to replacing the old autocratic regimes with new governments throughout Italy. So they saw what went down in France at the end of the 18th century, and they're like,
we don't want that.
We can do better. Yeah. So the original green, white, red tricolor was first presented to the National Guard of the Transpadana Republic in October of 1796, with the colors supposedly based on those found in Milan's urban militia uniforms. So they were based on something political.
Yeah.
The cops in Milan.
Sure.
The Cisalpine Republic chose the same colors and vertical positioning 2 years later. And after that, that flag was considered by Italian nationalists as the true flag of their homeland, even though it wasn't like universally adopted because, again, we're still a fucking mess.
Yep.
It was popular. According to flag makers, the Cisalpine Republic had a version of the tricolor flag in 1797, but they were horizontal and they had like an emblem in the middle. And they
something a little more involved. Yeah. Literally.
More involved. Yeah, it's sort of confusing to people because there were two now. And when Italy was finally united, the green, white, red flag had a shield and a cross on it representing the ruling house of that Savoy kingdom family house. So
it's very Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon confusion.
Yep. So
We've
they
got
would be
the
like
Targaryens. We've got the Lannisters.
So they'd be like in the north,
Mm-hmm.
and the White Walkers would be like, you know, in France. Makes sense.
Our 7 French listeners are so offended right now.
You're pale. You're all pale.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the three vertical stripes. We also have the 3 horizontal stripes with the emblem in the middle. Then we also have the vertical stripes with a shield and a cross in the middle that was representing this House of Savoy. When it was used for official purposes, they also added a crown to the cross. There are too many fucking variables depending on like circumstance and location and just like, I don't know,
how we felt
the
that
way
day.
The wind was blowing.
Yeah.
It's just a fucking flag. So finally in June of 1949,
Jeez,
those symbols
like
were
yesterday.
Yeah, like last week, they finally removed all these extra clutter things from the tricolor flag following a referendum that ended the monarchy and established finally the Italian Republic.
They hired professional organizers and they were like, this is too cluttered. This shit has to go.
So definitely well within your grandmother's lifetime.
Oh, yeah.
Italy had a king and a queen.
Mm-hmm.
It's not weird.
That is so fucking weird.
So each region of Italy also has its own flag and coat of arms. And there are some fucking weird ones. So I would like you to go to the drive. I have 2 examples. We've discussed Sicily, which is just the head with 3 bent legs.
It's my favorite.
Twisted around it.
The face is the vagina, which is my favorite part. Like, it's just this.
Yeah.
And the eyes.
Because there's a lot of thigh.
There's a lot of thigh, and the eyes, like, fully look like pussy lips. Just little vulval eyes with just black holes. I'm obsessed with it. If I had any Sicilian lineage, this would be tattooed on me so fucking fast. So fast.
Well, maybe we take a ferry on over to Sicily so you can step foot and have an excuse. Step foot.
Step 3 feet and 1 face vagina into Sicily. And fuck it, I'm Sicilian.
And then there's also this flag of Lombardy.
Yeah, this looks like a tech startup, like
totally
logo.
Pied Piper.
Yeah. What the fuck?
So it's just a field of like Kelly green with just a big white
COVID blob.
Looks like a loogie.
Yeah, a little bit.
Or like a cartoon bird splat.
It's a little rough.
So I will say that this design was based on like an ancient symbols from this region, I guess. There was a reason why they chose this.
Of course.
It's just like a little bit off balance. I don't know why it just kind of gives me the creeps.
Yeah, it's like not
it's a bizarre
centered,
flag.
maybe?
It's a little
weird.
twisted. Yeah. It's just a really weird looking flag.
I feel like if you Google image searched cartoon germs, that's what would
You'd
come
see
up.
that with a little face in the middle.
Yeah, kinda.
Mm-hmm.
It's odd.
It's odd. So yeah, there are lots of flags. Lots of flags in Italy. But their actual Italian flag is somewhat related to the classic margherita pizza.
Yum. We're gonna eat the fuck out of that.
I am going to eat non-stop when we're there.
Oh, you're gonna have to roll me from tour to tour, baby. Yeah, like, let's fucking go.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm so excited.
It's gonna be offensive how much I'm gonna eat. The police police might be called. Somebody stop her.
Somebody come get her.
Somebody come get her.
She's eating all like the pasta.
Like an American tourist.
That tracks.
Yeah.
Okay, so this NPR article is called The Politics of Pizza, How Italy's Flag and Food Are Deliciously Intertwined.
I love it.
According to the popular legend, the pizza margherita was invented in 1889 by Raffaele Esposito, a chef at Pizzeria Brandi.
Okay.
The pizza was allegedly created in honor of Italy's unification and inspired by the Italian flag. So the three toppings, which are basil, mozzarella, and tomato, represent the flag's green, white, and red.
Shut up.
Mm-hmm. So they say that... I'm so hungry. I like the really thin crust that's like...
wet.
Kind of wet in the middle.
And then
not on the
charred,
bottom, just in the middle.
The charred bottom and the charred crust.
Mm-hmm.
Bitch, if there's a big ass bubble on that crust,
ooh, yeah.
Fuck me up, pizza bubble. Oh, I'm chomping that bub.
Mm-hmm.
Soaking up all the fucking oil and tomato runoff off the plate with the crust. I'm gonna fucking die. I'm gonna drown in my own saliva.
You gotta save
Holy
that bub, scoop up the juices with it.
Yep.
It's like a little spoon.
That's good shit.
God's spoon.
Mm-hmm.
Esposito created this pizza when the new queen of Italy, named Margherita di Savoy.
So wait, is this where Savoy pizza comes from? It's like Italian pizza?
What's
like
Savoy pizza?
Savoy brand pizza. It's a thing.
Oh, maybe.
Maybe it's an East Coast thing. Savoy pizza.
That
Red
would make
Savoy.
sense.
There's one in Edina.
Okay.
Bitch, we are so fucking smart. Like,
but that's obviously where margarita came from.
I love this. I love this.
This is all just legend. This is probably not at all true, but this is the legend. It's cute. I'm sticking to it.
Yep. Suck it.
So when Queen Margherita di Savoia visited Naples is when he created this pizza to be like, we love you, Queen. We love Italia.
Oh,
we love our pizza.
If I ever reach the level of admiration for like an entire community to create a pizza for me.
Oh.
I'm tearing up just thinking about it. I can't.
Don't worry, you will never do anything to earn that much admiration.
No, that is so fucking true. You are absolutely correct.
You are not at risk for having a
Don't
pizza
worry.
named after you.
You are not at emotional risk of carrying the burden of a famous pizza. I'm good.
Don't worry.
Trust me on this.
According to John F. Mariani, a journalist and food writer, the Queen diplomatically declared the flag pizza to be her favorite.
Cute.
Today, a plaque near the Pizzeria Brandi marks it as the birthplace of the pizza margherita.
Love that.
Okay, so I hope you've worked up an appetite because now I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Black Death.
Oh no, go brown rat.
Go brown rat.
Go brown rat.
The Black Death, as we know, was a global epidemic of the bubonic plague that struck Europe and Asia in the mid-1300s. Mm-hmm. The plague arrived in Europe in October of 1347 when 12 ships from the Black Sea docked at the Sicilian port of Messina. So the whole town got excited. They're like, woo, there's all these ships coming from way far away. So all these people gathered up to watch them disembark.
Yeah, unload their exciting new wares and trade.
Mm-hmm. And they were shocked to find that most sailors aboard the ships were dead, and those who were still alive were gravely ill and covered in black boils that oozed blood and pus.
Can you imagine? You're all dressed up. It's a welcome wagon. Mm-hmm. You're waving your kerchief.
Mm-hmm.
And then
it's like the opening scene of Beauty and the Beast.
Absolute devastation comes crawling off those ships.
There goes that baker
nightmare.
with his tray like always.
Mm-hmm. Nope.
And
not
then
today.
These
the same old oozing boils to sell.
These gray men stumble off their ships. They reek They're wet with pus.
Oh, God. Mm-mm.
They're just going to let out one dusty last gasp and die right there.
Oh, it's horrible. Ugh.
I can't remember the name of that. I read a huge book about the Black Death while I was pregnant because there's nothing else to do.
Not Hot Zone.
No, that was Ebola.
Oh, that's right. I love that book.
I don't remember what the Black Death book was called, but it was so good. Any book about the Black Death is going to be good. Paints beautiful pictures. It was actually really gorgeously written.
I bet.
So the Sicilian authorities ordered the fleet of ships out of the harbor. Get the fuck out of here. But it was too late because it's really contagious. And
Yeah.
I'm sure some people got off or onto the ships before they decided what to do.
This reminds me of like February, not even of 20, a little later, of 2019, maybe 2020, it might have been 2020, right when like mutterings of COVID were happening, but there were no lockdowns, no protocols, anything like that. And Bill and I were spending our anniversary weekend, which must have been February, in Florida.
It was definitely 2020.
Yeah.
We were in Florida. We were in Florida in March, right before everything got locked down. That was fucking wild.
Yeah, and we were there in February, and we were down on the beach, and there, sure enough, there was a cruise ship that had patients, sick people on it, that they weren't letting dock. And so, like, medical practitioners were going to the ship to try and, like, figure out what was going on. But we were like, this is not great. And then we went home, and it was like, it all exploded. It was wild. So we had our own little welcoming the plague moment.
And did you know that the word quarantine comes from, I guess, Italian, probably quarantina or something like that, meaning 40. So they would put people who were exposed, they would put them on a I think that was their rule. Any ships that came into the harbor, they would have to sit outside of the harbor for at
40
least
days.
40 days. That's quarantine means 40 days.
Wow. Yeah, to let the virus run its course and run through everybody else in proximity. Oh. No, thank you.
Isn't that weird?
Don't like it.
I learned that from my book.
That's wild.
It's estimated that as much as 50% of Venice's population died from the Black Death. I would think that it would be at least half.
Yeah, I'm actually a little impressed.
Well, because it spread all the fuck over, there were towns where almost everyone died.
Yeah, I mean, entire villages were wiped out by this fucking shit. It's crazy. It must have been so terrifying, too, because we just didn't have the grasp of germology and science and medical treatment that we do in the modern era. And as we know, pandemics are terrifying enough, especially when it's something brand new and you don't have a comprehensive treatment plan for it yet. We're just learning as we fucking go. But this was like so scary, and there isn't the immediate communication with other regions, other nations. Like, how do you fucking warn even all of the people in Greater Italy that this has arrived in a sufficient amount of time? Like,
and they think that the plague came from like these weasels that lived in like Mongolia, like basically like wild ferrets, that's where the disease started. And then it just traveled down through China, down like Silk Road area.
Along trade routes. And
and then it went up to Italy. But that whole way, it's spreading that whole way.
Yeah.
Is that wild?
Yeah, that's so scary. If the time machine is created, this is not an era that I'm going back to. There aren't many eras that I would want to go back to.
I think the 80s would be fun.
The 80s would be a ride.
To be like an adult in the 80s.
I want to snort the cocaine of the 80s, like the good stuff, before we ruined it with fentanyl and all of this other cheap shit. That's when
I want some real Quaaludes.
Make lewds and coke great again. That's my platform.
Make recreational drugs safe again.
Seriously, not that they were ever like all that safe, but they're certainly not safe now.
Safer.
It was a different time.
It was a different time. So Venice later experienced several more plague outbreaks because it didn't go away. The plague is still around.
That's
notably in
not something I thought I'd hear today. Like you could still get it now.
Yes.
It's just much more treatable.
There was like a tiny little outbreak of it like a couple years ago in the U.S.
No. Mm-mm.
You can absolutely still get the plague.
No, thank you.
Yeah. They have it mostly, like, I know they have it like in a lab for sure.
Well, right.
But it's out. You can get the plague.
Is there a vaccine for it? Or just treatment? So that's why it's like so...
Probably just treatment. Hold on.
Minimal.
Plague today. Nowadays, it is a rare but persistent cause of illness in rural areas in the western U.S. and certain regions of Africa and Asia.
Wow.
Plague. And it's just called plague.
Yeah, just general plague.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's caused by a bacterium called Yersinia pestis.
Okay.
And and like I said, it came from like ferrets in Mongolia. Mm-hmm. That's kind of how it's spread. It's spread among rodents, brown rats.
So it's a bacteria, not a virus, which might be why there isn't a...
It's a disease caused by the bacteria.
Interesting. That might be why there isn't like just a basic ass vaccine for it. Because that might make it more complex to vaccinate against, but we still can treat it effectively, and that's why it's not like a widespread problem.
Yeah.
Would be my
and also
hypothesis.
We understand how
any research about this.
We also understand how like germs work.
Right.
And that it's not just the vapors from a dead person that infect you. It's like touching living people too. Notably in 1575 and 1630, it also returned to Venice in the 17th and 18th centuries, but obviously to a much lesser degree.
God, these folks can't catch a break.
So like every 100 years or so, Venice just gets slightly rocked by the plague. It's fine.
Where in that cycle? Well, we're not going to Venice, so I guess we're good. It's like, where in that cycle are we landing in Rome?
We're fine now. We have way better, rodent prevention.
I know, but it would be so fucking Amanda coded for me to get
the plague.
The plague on my first ever trip to Italy. Like, if that's gonna happen to anybody on this trip, I guarantee it's gonna be me, bitch. I am so lucky in the illness lottery like that. I do not claim this. I'm not manifesting this. I do not like this. No.
So in response, I'll keep you safe.
Okay.
In response to these outbreaks, Venetian authorities implemented strict quarantine measures, which involved isolating individuals and their families in like specific areas. Mm-hmm. In later outbreaks, they would even have different islands that they called lazzaretto, where they would send people for quarantine. They would banish them to an island.
Send me to an island in the Mediterranean.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Honestly.
I mean, that's what they did to like Napoleon.
He got off easy.
He really did.
Yeah. They sent him on a spa.
He probably had a
spa
really
eternity.
nice time.
He probably did. Mm-hmm. He was like, you know what? I'm exhausted. Thank God for my exile.
I can finally peel off my wool socks.
Finally.
I don't know why I keep bringing up wool socks, but it's my worst nightmare. That's what I couldn't handle about living like during the Civil War.
Everything was wet and everything was wool.
Yeah, I mean, like, not me, but like if I was a soldier in the trenches, really in any trenches at any point in history, is just
not a big fan of a trench.
Wet socks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a trench gal.
No. Not here for the trenches.
No.
I
had a dream last night about those flamethrowers during World War One.
Oh, God. That's scary.
Yeah, I dreamt that Trump won the election, and the next thing I knew, there was civil war, and people had full-on flamethrowers.
Well, I hope that was just a dream and not a prophecy.
I don't think I took my medication last night.
You don't think? You don't think as you lucid dreamt about the post-Trump Civil War? Take your meds.
We might not be coming home from Italy.
Listen.
Oh my God.
I'm coming back and I'm fighting.
So, like I said, the plague decimated other parts of Italy as well, and obviously Europe, Asia, parts of Africa, etc. Mm-hmm. For example, Sienna's population was so diminished that the project that they had going of enlarging their cathedral was completely abandoned.
Is it
They were like, we don't have enough people.
Is that cathedral still like unfinished to this day?
I'm looking it up.
Because that would be interesting.
Siena Cathedral, I can tell you that it's closed right now. It looks
temporarily
finished.
closed. All right. Well, they eventually got around to it.
I think they did.
That's wild. And obviously that's significant because, you know, I think to us in the modern age, it's like, oh, they didn't finish building a church. But at the time, it's like these were the cornerstones of the entire community. Like that was an essential building, gathering place of worship at the center of their community. So to not be able to complete that because of population devastation is like a very significant thing.
Mm-hmm. Wikipedia said that this specific cathedral was the episcopal seat of the Diocese of Siena. Mm. So it was an important cathedral. Yeah. It's beautiful. Wild. The plague also killed many great painters, including Ambrogio and Pietro Lorenzetti, which also ended the development of the first Sienese school. Mm. The Roman Catholic Church also lost some of its monopoly over the salvation of souls.
Yeah,
because
bummer.
People were staring into the face of imminent death, and everyone around them is dead or dying, so they turned to mysticism and excesses. Mm. People didn't give a fuck anymore. It's like, I'm going to get drunk. I'm not working. Fuck you. I'm not going to church because we're all dying anyway.
Can you fucking blame them?
Nope.
That's exactly what I would do. That's exactly what I would do. I would hole myself up in my room with my Squishmallows and my wine and wait for death. Wait for sweet, merciful death.
Yep.
Bye.
Sometimes death is a mercy.
I'm binging my shows and my arm's rotting off, and there's fuck all I can do about it. I'm not going to work. Mm-hmm. Sorry, we're not putting out content this week. I have boobas and boils.
I'm just watching the boils grow on my arm.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm manically measuring the changes in my boils and watching Evil on Paramount Plus. I cannot come to work.
There was a part of that book where one of the I don't know how true this was, but it really painted a picture. But one of the doctors is like in the room with a woman who's dying of plague.
Oh, God.
And he says he can hear the boils getting bigger on her body, like filling.
Oh! Oh!
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Isn't that gross?
Oh, no. Okay, I need more wine. Nope. Oh, my God. That, I'm not okay with that detail. Oh, just like filling like a wet balloon in your armpit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I also forgot I gotta reread this. Did you read the book called The Plague by Albert Camus in high school?
Yes, I have not read it since, but yes, we read it.
That was a
in
scary
AP English, right?
Book. I think so. That was so scary.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I loved it.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that's one of the books that I did actually read because it held my interest and I didn't have to fake it through all of my essays.
I just remember the one scene where there's like, they're at like a play, like a performance, and one of the actors just dies on stage.
And his skin is like exploding.
Mm-hmm. There's just blood.
Okay. Yeah, I'm adding that to my... Maybe I'll read that on the plane. Pick that up.
Yeah.
We can popcorn
It's not
to each
a long
other.
book. One of us should... Yeah, we should popcorn read it.
That's actually a
Yes.
Let's do that.
I'm going to go to Half
do
Price
it.
Books tomorrow and get it.
Done.
Okay, so
If
here's
you can't
MJ's
find it, I'll
note.
download it to my phone.
Amazing.
We'll either way.
We're popcorn reading it on the plane.
We're popcorn.
Everyone around us can hear it.
It's like,
Can you
We're
girls keep it down?
yeah, we're getting.
They separate us.
Again.
Again. We're always getting separated
I
by
don't
authorities.
know why. We've never done anything untoward.
Or obnoxious.
Ever.
So MJ's note says there's a fictional show called The Decameron on Netflix about the bubonic plague as it spreads through Italy. Smiley face.
No way. Okay, I'm watching that in bed tonight.
Mm-hmm.
That's happening.
Okay. So we already talked about offensive Italian stereotypes. I gotta... Yeah, remember a long time ago, I asked if it was like racist or something to like talk in an Italian specifically accent.
Mm-hmm.
And we decided no because the Italians haven't historically been subjugated
For the color
like
of
other
their skin.
groups.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's what we decided.
I mean, we as non oppressed or subjugated white women don't get to decide that. But I understand that things can be offensive, and we're sorry.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a
also-
lot more offensive things that we could do against Italians than an accent.
And we won't.
We won't,
Do
but I'm
those
going to tell you
things.
what they are.
Okay. Well, these are things to avoid.
It's things to be aware of.
Yes.
So this is according to the Order Sons and Daughters of Italy in America, which is the largest and oldest organization for folks of Italian heritage in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So they contend that ad campaigns that feature Italian Americans often use stereotypes that present an unbalanced portrait of people of Italian heritage.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, the men are often portrayed as uneducated, dishonest, and or violent. The women are usually elderly, overweight housewives and grandmothers wearing dark-colored clothing.
Okay.
Ads using Italian Americans usually capitalize on the mafia and gang portrayal of Italian Americans in popular entertainment.
That I have very much noticed.
Mm-hmm.
Americans are like, the West is like obsessed with Italian mafia culture and storytelling.
I don't think that would be that big of a thing if it weren't for the Godfather movies.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Media has definitely like implanted that into our culture.
Mm-hmm. So we've got the tropes of mafia culture, the over-the-top like gaudiness, like the big gold jewelry and the animal prints and the big hair, male infidelity, contracted murder, like hitmen.
Yeah, the mob thing.
Mm-hmm. And the vain, hot-tempered, power-hungry Italian women. So, like, if we're thinking about Real Housewives of New Jersey.
Teresa Giudice.
Danielle, the flipping of the table, prostitution whore, all that stuff.
Iconic.
Mm-hmm. Carolyn Manzo.
Mm-hmm.
These historically based negative stereotypes continue to disfigure and misrepresent Italian Americans in American society. So just some things to be aware of, some things to notice. The mob thing, I know it's like a stereotype, but when I started thinking about it, I'm like, that is fucking everywhere.
It's everywhere. It really is. It'll be so interesting to be in Italy among Italians and not Italian Americans and like really experience their culture and how different I'm certain it must be from how they are portrayed in American media.
Mm-hmm.
Like how Italian Americans are portrayed. And obviously Italian American culture is going to be different from Italian culture where you are living in Italy, because American culture is a fucking trip and
tapestry
seeps into everything. But yeah, that should be an interesting experience. I'm really excited.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun. Okay, so this is a little bit about the Vatican since you asked.
I did.
So Benito Mussolini,
that old chestnut,
that old violent dictator.
Yeah, ever heard of him?
He signed Vatican City into existence. So that was because there was this ongoing dispute between the Italian government and the Catholic Church, because the Italian government kind of absorbed those papal states, and the Catholic Church was like, but that was our thing.
Mm-hmm.
So this was in 1929, and Mussolini signed the Lateran Pacts, which allowed the Vatican to exist as its sovereign state, and paid the church $92 million for the papal states that they absorbed. The Vatican used that payment as seed money to regrow its coffers, which I think is just a nice way of...
It's financial reserves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Coffers are mentioned in my case as well. That was a big thing. I mean, people paid the church. That was just a regular... That's still a regular part of, Christian and, Catholic culture, very much so.
Your tithings.
But yeah, that was just ingrained into the papacy. Like, it's wild, the kind of money that they fucking had.
If we go to the Vatican, it's wild. There's it's hard to explain. It looks like
opulent,
but like not in a pretty way. Just I don't know how to explain it. Okay. It's pretty. It's impressive. It's very big.
Okay.
It's like you get kind of dizzy because everything's just so big.
Yeah, I mean, I'll cover my shoulders and roll up to Vatican City. Let's fucking go.
I accidentally brought a knife into the Vatican.
That is the most Lucy shit ever. Should I try to vape at the Vatican? No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do the ugly American bullshit, but it would be kind of funny.
Well, I had my knife in my bag.
Vape
and I was
Nation. God.
I realized I had my knife in my bag, and they put your bag through a metal detector, like a security thing.
Hey, if they didn't catch it, not your problem.
Well, I made eyes at the boy searching the bags.
I
tried to distract him. They also have these cute little outfits. They have their own military uniform, the Vatican, but they're ridiculous. They look like court jesters.
Okay. Here for it.
You can see it from a mile away.
You love a young Vatican boy in uniform.
I was also 20 years old, so that at the time it wasn't as pervy as I'm making it sound right now.
Okay, that's good. Glad we cleared that up.
Yeah, I got to clear that up. Okay, a couple fun facts about Italy, and then I'm going to tell you about a really creepy short case.
Okay.
Did you know that Italy is just slightly larger than the state of Arizona?
This is something that shocks me every time it's brought up, and not specifically to the state of Italy, but that little tidbit is applicable to so many countries in and around Europe.
Luxembourg is this big.
Yeah, and I saw a TikTok about this not too long ago about there's a man, he's British, he's been traveling in the United States for the last year or so. And he did a video about how a lot of people in Europe consider Americans to not be well-traveled, which makes sense because we really don't leave the United States very often. First of all, we have some serious financial constraints when it comes to traveling outside of the United States. It's very, very hard to afford to do it. But the US is so fucking big. It's massive. And we when we vacation, when we go on holiday, We're not leaving Italy to go to Greece or leaving England to go to Amsterdam, which can take them, an hour and a half flight. Like, it takes us fucking 3+ hours to fly to Vegas or fly to LA. Like, it's not, Americans are well traveled within the United States, but travel here is not accessible. It's barely accessible even in the United States. But like,
also the U.S.
Minnesota is fucking huge. The U.S. is fucking huge. It's huge. I could live my whole life and not visit every state here. And I'm like actively trying to go to every state.
We got deserts, we got mountains, we got skiing, we got beaches,
we got oceans,
we got prairies. We have we just don't have like a rainforest. Basically, that's it.
I mean, technically we do, because the Pacific Northwest is a rainforest climate. There's like swaths of rainforest climate
like a tropical
up there.
rainforest.
Yes, we don't have that. But yeah, I mean, so like, yes, statistics like that always blow my mind. And I know that U.S. culture, it's like weirdly insular, but it's kind of hard for it not to be, because we don't have access to other. I mean, if Americans are regularly traveling out of the country, it's typically to go to like Canada or Mexico, because it's so hard to fly overseas. It's so fucking expensive. It's crazy.
Even technically, domestic travel is
so
crazy.
expensive.
Like flying to Hawaii. That's like an 11-hour flight or some shit.
Yeah.
Did you know that the thermometer is an Italian invention? Good to know. I
love that.
Italy has a volcano named Stromboli.
Cute.
What is Stromboli? Is it pasta?
Let's find out. Stromboli. How to make homemade stromboli. It's not a pasta. It is stromboli, also known as pizza arrotolata, is a type of baked turnover filled with various Italian cheeses and usually Italian cold cuts or vegetables served hot. Bitch. We're fucking eating that. The dough uses either Italian bread dough or pizza dough.
That's what they made in Real Housewives of New York, when that one gal who was only on for one season like baked a fork into hers and thought it was funny.
Wikipedia says stromboli was invented by Italian Americans in the United States in the Philadelphia area. So probably an American invention named after the mountain. So we may not even encounter stromboli in Italy, because that's an Italian American dish.
We'll have to go to Little Italy.
Yeah. We're gonna find the only Pizza Hut in Italy and see if they have stromboli.
Sick. Okay. Pope Pius IX proclaimed himself a prisoner of the Vatican, and for almost 60 years refused to leave the Vatican and submit to the authority of the Italian government.
Okay.
So he was like, I'm safe in here.
Yeah, fucking make me leave, bitch.
So he spent 60 years inside the Vatican.
I'm going to tell you right now, I could easily spend 60 years inside. And the Vatican's not small.
Nope.
So good on you, boss.
Yeah, but also just like petty.
So petty.
I don't want to pay my taxes.
If all it took for me to not pay my taxes was stay in my house for 60 years, fucking done.
Oh, done.
Easy.
But if I had papal money, if I had that papal bag, whatever. Whatever.
Yeah, just pay your taxes, guys. Just pay your taxes.
Just pay your fucking taxes. Okay, so a little case for you. And this is the story of the Beasts of Satan murders.
Okay.
It is as violent as it sounds.
It sounds not great.
It's not great. In January of 1998 in Milan, Italy, 16-year-old Fabio Tollis, who was a student and a heavy metal musician, and his lady friend Chiara Marino, who was a 19-year-old shop assistant, they were drinking at a pub, and the pub was called The Midnight, and it was like a very big venue in the heavy metal scene in Milan. They were just out drinking beers, They left and they never came home.
Oh, shit.
They disappeared. The police and many of their friends just thought they had run off together because they were like falling in love maybe. But their parents did not believe this.
Okay.
And their parents turned out to be correct. So on the night of their disappearance, as we later learned, the two had been sacrificially stabbed and beaten in a drug-fueled occult ritual.
The fuck?
Perhaps worse, they were killed by their friends.
Oh, I don't like this. I don't like this.
So 3 of the people who killed them, like kind of the main 3 people, were Andrea Volpi, Nicola Sapone, and Mario Macchioni. And Mario was considered by Tolis to be his best friend.
Oh, God.
Mm-hmm. There were also like a couple more people, and I'm going to read you the list of all the names because they all have really stupid nicknames.
Okay.
Like within their group, their cult group, they all have like alternative names. So this was Andrea Isidon Volpi, Nicola Onusin Sapone, Paolo Ozzi Leone, Mario Ferocity Macchioni.
Ooh,
So
okay.
Ferocity was the best friend.
Get over yourself. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And when did this take place?
98.
98. Okay.
Pietro Wedra Guerrieri, Marco Kill Zampola.
Okay. Zero points for creativity on Marco Kill.
Yeah, Kill. And then Eros Chaos Monterosso.
When your name is Eros, which is already the fucking like most badass name ever.
And it was Chaos with a K. Chaos with a K.
Boo.
And also Elisabetta Ballerin. There was one girl involved in the killers group.
Okay.
So this group had been part of a band, the group including Tolis and Marino, Chiara Marino, were part of a heavy metal band, and they were suspected of participating in satanic cult activity. Their band / their group was called the Beasts of Satan, which in Italian is Bestie di Satana.
Satan besties.
Which is really sad because they were besties.
Yeah.
So Volpi, who was the de facto leader of the cult, had lured the pair out of the pub. He was probably like, hey guys, let's go hang out because we are all friends.
Mm-hmm.
He and the others drove out of the city and into the woods near Somma Lombardo, which is about 30 miles northwest of Milan.
Mm-hmm.
So they're in a dark forest.
Don't like it. Nope.
So once they were there, Volpe was like, okay, guys, Chiara has to be sacrificed. And I think the reasoning was that she was like, they said that she was like echoing like Christianity too much. Like she wanted to be viewed as the Virgin Mary or something like that. That was their reasoning.
Okay.
So she had to be sacrificed because they
like,
couldn't have that. In the
among the besties
Satan.
of Satan, yeah.
So Tolis, her boyfriend, who was like 6'2" and like 230, like he was a big guy.
Big boy.
He desperately tried to defend himself and Chiara, but there wasn't anything that he could do. And actually his attempts to protect her resulted in him getting a blow to the head with a hammer.
He's outnumbered and overpowered. Big time.
And they have a hammer.
Yeah.
Nicola Sapone then gagged Tolis and slit his throat in what the Italian media later called, quote, an orgy of bloodletting.
Oh, no.
Marino and Tolis were then stabbed and beaten to death. Okay, so here's what it said. According to the New York Times, by some accounts, Chiara Marino was killed because the cult members taught her to personify the Virgin Mary. I don't. It doesn't really make sense. I think she had just become like not bad enough for them.
Mm-hmm.
Officials say the two may have been killed because they were considered to not be strongly committed enough to the cult and therefore posed a threat to it.
Mm-hmm. I question your commitment to sparkle motion.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Macchione, Sapone, and Volpe buried the bodies in a large grave in the woods and danced on top of their graves.
Ew.
The group was laughing and screaming, quote, "Now you're both zombies. Try to get out of this hole if you dare."
That's... No.
Probably
No.
sounded cooler in Italian when they were doing it.
Probably.
Horrific, regardless. As mentioned, the authorities at the time thought that Marino and Tolis had run off together, but Tolis' father, Michel Tolis, did not accept that explanation.
Mm-hmm.
A few hours before their murder, Sapone forced Tolis to call his home and tell his dad that he wasn't going to come home that night. And his reasoning under threat by this friend was
duress.
Because he said he was going to go sleep with his girlfriend, Chiara.
Uh-huh.
Michelle thought that was strange and then called the pub back to like check and make sure he was okay. But by then they had already left. It was too late.
Oh, shit.
So Michel was convinced that his son's friends knew something, and he launched an investigation that would last the next 6 years.
Oh my God. 6 years?
Mm-hmm.
No. Being a parent is too scary. I don't know how you do it. Absolutely not. Nope. Mm-mm.
Well, my child doesn't have any friends yet, so.
Thank God. Thank God.
Yeah. So basically, the cops were like, they just ran away. There is absolutely no evidence to suggest that they were taken, that they've been harmed, that those people had anything to do with it. The cops, they just weren't. There was nothing for them to go on other than Tolis' dad being like, something is wrong.
Something's wrong, yeah.
So 6 years later, on January 24th, 2004, Jessica's birthday, Volpe and his girlfriend, so this is 18-year-old Elisabetta Ballerin.
Mm-hmm.
So Volpe's like definitely in his 20s. This girl is 18 years old.
Yeah, she's a child, basically.
Together, they committed another murder.
Oh, fucking
this
course
time,
they did.
Their target was 27-year-old Mariangela Pizzotta, who was Volpe's ex-girlfriend. So he's like, hey, new girlfriend, come with me to murder my ex-girlfriend. It'll be fun.
Yeah, prove your commitment to the satanic cult by helping me kill my ex.
Mm-hmm. According to the LA Times, they lured Pizzotta to a remote chalet, which, like, I could so easily be lured to a remote chalet.
Honestly, me too. A remote Italian chalet. We're basically doing that.
Yeah, in Milan. Hello.
Yeah, sign me up.
While they were high on drugs and alcohol, the pair reportedly shot Pizzotta in the face, then buried her while she was still alive in a shallow grave.
Oh my God.
I also read that they shot her, they dragged her to the greenhouse, or maybe they shot her in the greenhouse and then she wasn't dead. So they were just hitting her with like a spade shovel.
Oh, no.
And she still wasn't dead, and they buried her alive.
Oh my fucking God.
Mm-hmm.
So many opportunities to be like, we should stop. Oh.
So, allegedly, Volpe then called Sapone when they realized that she was still alive. Like, fuck, we can't. She's still alive. And he was like, you can't even kill a person. Like, you're pathetic. It was reported that Volpe had decided to kill Pizzotta because she knew too many details about the sect and the Tolis and Marino murders. So she was probably dating Volpe when those murders happened. And then somewhere along the line, he was like, she's got to go. They broke
up. He doesn't trust her anymore.
So after they tried to kill, or eventually did kill Pizzotta, Volpe and Ballerin, his girlfriend, did a bunch of coke and heroin. Great combo.
Yeah.
and decided that they better get rid of Pizzotta's car. We better go run it into this nearby river, like sink it in the river.
Okay.
So they get behind the wheel and they instead crash the car and were promptly arrested.
Okay, good. I'm glad that their really bad decision making at least gets them apprehended in some way.
Mm-hmm. So like a few days later, Michel, who was Tolis's dad, was watching the local news. A report came on discussing a murder in the nearby town of Somma Lombardo. A young man called Andrea Volpi had been arrested and admitted to killing his ex-girlfriend. This set off alarm bells in Michel's head because Volpi had been in the death metal band with his son.
Yeah.
So he didn't really recognize him.
Sorry, go ahead.
I don't think he recognized him as like a close friend of his son's, but he was like, they were in a band together. They were in a death metal band together. They were like, okay, I have a picture on the drive.
Yeah.
This group of people is everyone we hung out with in high school.
Oh, 1,000%. Honestly, when I was looking at the flags earlier, I saw this photo and I was like, is this us in Excelsior? Like with our little goth boyfriends?
Like I can name the individuals who look like our friends with the same wardrobe.
Correct. Correct. Okay,
Yeah,
so that does kind of answer my question of like if the dad knew that this guy would have been one of the last to see his child alive, or he just made the connection, oh, they knew each other. They were in a band together. Now this guy's been arrested for murder. I want to go deeper on this because my kid's still missing.
Mm-hmm. It's possible that he knew that his son's like last whereabouts were at this like death metal
gathering, hangout at the pub
of club. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's possible that he was like, oh, these were probably those friends he was with. But then there was nothing he could do with that information until he saw that one of those guys was arrested for murder.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
so he called the police. He arranged a meeting. And according to the Carabinieri, which is a faction of the Italian military, so it's basically the cops, they said or reported, quote, it was a strange story, the one Michel Tolis told, but he didn't only tell a story, he backed it up with a very convincing body of paperwork and photographs, which he has gathered over the past 6 years.
Yes, he's trying to bring justice to his kid.
Mm-hmm.
He's showing up with fucking receipts,
text messages, timelines. Yes.
Good on him. Good on him. Seriously.
Using Michel's dossier of information, the police interrogated Volpi about the disappearances. Volpi finally confessed and led the police to where Tolis and Marino were buried.
Wow.
So they also
all those
arrested
years later.
Mm-hmm. They also arrested Macchioni, who was the best friend, who admitted to having beaten Tolis to death with a hammer.
Oh,
and also,
my God.
His best friend. And also told the cops that the boys had been part of a wider satanic sect called the Besties of Satana.
Oof.
On February 22nd, 2005, so this was about a year later, Volpi and another member, Pietro Guerrieri, were sentenced to jail for their roles in the 3 ritual murders. Volpi was sentenced to 30 years, which was 10 more than the prosecutors had requested because it was so gross.
Mm-hmm.
Guerrieri was given 16 years. Macchioni, who also confessed to the killings, including beating his best friend with a hammer, was cleared of charges because he had played a quote-unquote secondary role.
He probably gave compelling information to the prosecution.
I think he did.
To avoid
any fucking sentence whatsoever. I mean,
that's wild. That's really wild.
The verdict came among a growing concern in Italy that young people were turning to Satanism and the occult. It's just a couple decades after that happened in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
2 months before the sentencing, a Vatican-linked university opened a 2-month course on diabolical possession and exorcism because this was like such a fad.
Dang.
5 more members of the Beasts of Satan went on trial in June 2005. So Sapone was given a life sentence. Ballerin, Paolo Leone, Marco Zampolo, and Eros Chaos Monterosso were also sentenced to anything from a life sentence, 29 years, 27 years. Ballerin, the young girlfriend, got 22 years. And for some reason, Volpe was released in 2020.
Yeah, and I'd imagine, well, probably not for some reason. There were a lot of COVID releases.
Oh,
especially if you were coming toward approaching the end of your sentence, if you had been like, quote unquote, a model prisoner.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that might have just transitioned out of prison to maybe some house arrest, parole type thing, because of COVID would be my guess.
That's a good point. So, just a last little footnote. Involvement of the Beast of Satan has been suspected for up to 14 other unsolved cases.
No way.
They happened in the same area, the same time frame. And they weren't just homicides. That includes alleged suicides, disappearances, and violent deaths of people allegedly tied to members of the group. So among these are 23-year-old construction worker Christian Frigario from Brugario, who was allegedly a former member of the group who disappeared on November 14th of 1996. 21-year-old Andrea Ballerin, who was a childhood friend of Volpe, different Ballerin, was found hanged in the school that he had attended in May of 1999.
And had that been ruled a suicide
I think that one was ruled a suicide, but like Volpe went to the same school and was friends with her. 28-year-old Angelo Lombardo, who is the caretaker of the cemetery of Legnano and an acquaintance of some of the members of the group, he was found burned alive in the cemetery in December of 1999.
Oh my God.
That sounds pretty Satan-y, ritualistic, burning someone alive in a cemetery.
Yeah.
26-year-old Doriano Mola was found hanged in the woods near Cavaria con Premezzo in December of 2000.
And was that person connected directly to them?
All of these people had some ties to the group.
Okay, because that was going to be my question, is it's like, as we know from other episodes talking about satanic panic, some of these kind of ritualistic killings certainly do happen. We're talking about one right now, but then also things can get swept up in the media and blamed on a satanic panic that might not be the cause, but like because all of these cases have a direct line to this specific group.
Yeah, this says allegedly.
That kind of changes things.
Allegedly tied, but at least three of these people did have ties. Okay, Doriana Mola, 21-year-old Luca Colombo, who was a flower seller and a friend of Nicola Sapone, was found hanged in May of 2004. And 18-year-old carpenter Alberto Scaramuzzino from Deirago was found burned in his car in the woods in May of 2004.
Oh, it's so creepy.
They were either burned or hanged.
Similar causes of death. Similar circumstances. It's definitely compelling, even as somebody who rejects, by and large, the satanic panic kind of defense or blame. Like, this is a different situation. This is like an active cult that happened to consider themselves Satanists, that had connections to these people. Like, there's more compelling evidence. The MO is really similar. These possibilities don't feel to me like media outrageous satanic panic throwing the blame at the wall to see what sticks. This actually feels a little bit more linear and connected. And you said all in the same time frame too?
All but the first of these happened between the first two murders that we know about and the last murder where everyone got arrested. Yeah.
And then suddenly it stopped.
Well, I mean, obviously crime didn't stop. But
no. But like
those were the only. Yeah, these were the only ones. These were some of the 14 other unsolved cases that they are suspected of.
And all of the people arrested, are still alive. Some might still be in custody or maybe soon to be.
Volpe is out.
Yeah.
So he was like the leader of the group.
I'm just curious, like where these investigations are at. If anybody that was, charged for any of the other crimes that they served their sentences for would come forward and provide information.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're all close to the end of their sentence, like why the fuck would they want to talk? That would just extend their time in prison.
Mm-hmm. And their sentences were kind of all over the place. Like some were just a few years, and some was like one was a life sentence.
Yeah. So, again, another reason for them to keep their mouths shut, because it's like, well, I'm not going to I'm almost out for some of them. I'm not going to risk that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So that is the story of the beasts of Satan.
What a fucking gross mystery. I hate that.
Mm-hmm. You hate a mystery.
I do hate a mystery. Well, well done.
Thanks.
Miss Lachelle, you gave us so much incredible information about our beautiful Italy and some of the fucked up shit that happened there.
That we can look forward to, just really feeling. I'm excited to stand on the streets where the plague just wiped everyone out.
Yeah, happy for you. Happy for you on that one. That's awesome.
So cool.
Yep. Very exciting. My story today is ghostly. I'm on my end. That's why we drink bullshit for Italy crimes.
Excellent.
I started looking into hauntings and found this story about Beatrice Cenci, whose story is one of tragedy, revenge, and a chilling haunting that lingers in Rome's folklore. So my case today combines the real-life account of Beatrice's brutal family life with the legend that surrounds her execution and the ghostly sightings said to take place on the Sant'Angelo Bridge, which, if we are anywhere near that when we are in Rome, I want to check it out. That might be a little day trip we take.
At night.
Well, sure.
We'll have to go at night. Should I bring my ghost meter?
Should I bring my dowsing rods?
Yes.
We go to the bridge? Two idiot fucking
meter.
Americans?
Yeah.
Why not?
Let's also be drunk so we can just maximize our obnoxiousness.
Great. According to througheternity.com, the Cenci family legacy was drama. Quote, Beatrice was born into one of the most ruthless of the powerful families who fought for control of medieval Rome. Although Pope John X was a Cenci, the family earned a reputation for fighting against the papacy, allegedly in the pay of external forces. In 1075, one Cenci kidnapped Pope Gregory VII, right? That's
the seventh.
VII. Just as he was V7th, just as he was performing mass at the altar of Santa Maria Maggiore. In 1398, another member of the family organized a plot to overthrow the papacy and murder Boniface IX.
Nice.
By the 1500s, their power and influence had decreased, but the family's notoriety was soon to reach its peak thanks to the actions of its cruelest member, Francesco Cenci, Beatrice's father.
Francesco Cenci.
So Francesco Cenci was notoriously cruel and tyrannical. He was a wealthy landowner, infamous for his violent temper and his criminal actions, which included, but were not limited to, physical and sexual abuse toward his children, particularly Beatrice and her stepmother, Lucrezia Petroni. Beatrice's elder sister, Antonina, felt so terrorized by their father that she appealed to the Pope to allow her either to be married off or to join a nunnery, anything to escape her sadistic father. There's a little more on that.
Oh my God, that's awful.
Several times, this motherfucker was accused of raping young women. There were also reports of him sexually abusing young boys. So he was out there in these streets.
Abusing everyone.
But one of the young women he was accused of assaulting was alleged to have been murdered by him after she refused his advances. So he came on to her. She said no. He assaulted her and he killed her. Francesco's violent behavior was so extreme that he was repeatedly jailed, but due to his wealth and influence, he's from this big wealthy papal family, he often avoided severe punishment. His power and social position meant that his bullshit was largely ignored by authorities, or he could pay his way out of jail.
A tale as old as time.
Yeah, seriously, some things never fucking change. To escape his consistent and justified scrutiny by authorities, he took a handful of servants, his wife, and the beautiful young and coming-of-age Beatrice to a creepy-ass castle in the small countryside town of Petrea Salto in the mountains east of the city. He had well over a dozen children that he had either bailed on or who had left him, so he put his focus on Beatrice, claiming he was trying to protect her from boorish Roman men now that she was approaching marrying age. But it's suspected, given his history of sexual abuse, that he was trying to kind of keep her for himself.
Oh, that's so sick.
Yeah. So he kept her and Lucrezia in isolation, so that's his wife, and out of the public eye where he could do what he pleased. Quote, he insisted Beatrice and Lucrezia both sleep in the same bed with him. He began forcing Beatrice to scrape the scabies on his body from head to toe.
Oh my God. Oh, that's so gross.
It's vile.
Ooh.
Beatrice wrote desperate letters to her brother Giacomo, but Francesco only whipped her when he found them. So she's appealing to her brother who got out to be this motherfucker, I'm in his bed scraping his scabies. Please get me the fuck out of here. And he'd find the letters and beat her, whip her.
Oh my God.
It was fucking sick. This shit was fucking sick. I don't know a ton about his other kids, but did find this quote in Atlas Obscura, quote, while Francesco was paying off the justice system, such as it was, his children were doing their best to get away from him since he always seemed to have enough money for fines, but never enough to feed or clothe them.
His children.
Children, yeah. His son Giacomo disowned him and left. Cristoforo and Rocco, heirs to their father's temper, were killed in duels. So they had also been messy boys and they died.
Messy boys.
Messy boys. Antonina, Beatrice's older sister, as we mentioned earlier, successfully petitioned the Pope and asked him for permission to either marry without Francesco's consent or join a convent to escape him. I'm not sure. Oh, she did get married. So the Pope consented to her marriage and stuck her father with a hefty dowry. And Francesco was pissed about this because he was paying his way out of trouble so much that he did not have a lot of money for the dowry.
And which he never agreed to the marriage in the first place.
And that was kind of the last straw event that motivated Francesco to take Beatrice and Lucrezia and get out of town. It's well, you can't get me to pay if I fucking leave. Because this was a different time. This was the 1500s.
Well, yeah, and the Pope was the one being I'm going to marry off your daughter. You got to pay me.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Sorry, I'm a little drunk. And I'm drinking more. Here we go. So as the story goes, on the morning of September 9th, 1598, Plautia Calvetti, the housekeeper for the Cencis, was shopping in the village when she heard a loud commotion. A friend called to her, Plautia, Plautia, they are screaming in the castle.
Danielle.
Danielle! She ran back to the Plautia. She ran back to the castle and saw Beatrice Cenci looking down from one of the windows of the castle.
Oh my God.
Plautia called up to her but received no response, just staring into the distance, utterly silent.
Oh my God, I love
Unlike
this. I love
her
where this is
stepmother,
going.
whose frantic screams could be heard echoing through the castle.
Oh.
As Plautia continued up the road, she met some men who were running away from the castle, screaming, Signor Francesco è morto! Count Francesco is dead. Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
His mangled corpse was found in a wooded thicket at the base of the castle, where the residents dumped their rubbish. He's just
Poop pile.
in a trash and poop
Heap.
hole.
Where he
Above-
belongs.
Where he fucking belongs. Above the rubbish trench at the top story of the castle, a wooden balcony wall was broken and the count had fallen over 40 feet to his death.
Good for her.
Right? Fucking right?
Good for her.
Good for her. As townspeople and authorities attended to the scene, they noticed the corpse was oddly cold. Too cold for someone who had just fallen to their death. Further investigation of the broken balcony banister revealed the break looked oddly specific in size. Almost intentional to fit the count's body through or make it look like his body went through it. I'm imagining a medieval Kool-Aid man situation where it's like, this hole is too specific.
Yeah, okay.
When the body itself was washed and examined, large jagged wounds were found near his temples. One, quote, large enough for a servant girl to ghoulishly stick her finger inside.
That's me. I'm
That's
the servant
Lucy.
Girl. Look
Tag
at the
yourself.
sweatshirt I'm wearing. It's my autopsy shirt.
It is external exam. Y incision.
So
Finger
they
in the
found
hole.
those wounds during the external exam.
There you go.
And I stuck my fingers in his head.
For measuring.
It's for science.
For science.
Research.
But this investigation of the body, the scene, the cold skin made clear the count had been murdered.
Oops.
Oops. Without much pressure from authorities, Lucrezia confessed.
Oh.
So Lucrezia, Francesco's long-suffering wife, had given her husband a sleeping potion.
I love the phrase long-suffering wife.
Long-suffering wife. I know. It's so fucking good. It's so good. And after he had passed out, she and Beatrice instructed two men who worked in the castle to move him. Now, this is real old. So there are some reports that her younger brother, who was still around, may have also helped, but we're not 100% sure. But we know at least two men who worked in the castle helped them with this plan. Francesco briefly awoke from his drug-fueled haze, and a struggle began with the guys who had been instructed to yeet him over the castle wall. At the urging of Beatrice, the men held him down and smashed his head in with a hammer and chisel, the finger-sized hole, before tossing his body over the wall into the trash trench.
Mm-hmm.
Afterward, they broke apart the balcony to make it look like an accident. One of the two murderers was Olimpio Calvetti, a caretaker of the castle and husband of Plautia, the housekeeper, who had been porking Beatrice on the side, allegedly.
Plautia was? Or Olimpio was?
Her husband, Olimpio, who also worked in the castle. There are rumors that he was having an affair with Beatrice, and that's why Beatrice was able to convince him through seduction to take care of her abusive father.
So Lucrezia wasn't trying to kill him?
Oh, she was.
Oh, okay.
She and Beatrice. Basically, she and Beatrice are locked up in this fucking castle, scraping scabies and getting abused every day. And Beatrice was like, we have to kill him. Like, we have no other choice. We will never be free. Mm-hmm. And Lucrezia was like, bitch, you're fucking right. Let's do this. So they start working together.
Bitch, you're on.
Bitch, hold my drug potion beer. Let's fucking go. So it's tough because we've got misogyny at play. We've got word of mouth that's turned into legend. This is a really old story. A lot gets kind of put on Beatrice as the mastermind, including this whole, she seduced Olympio because she was having an affair with him into killing her father. That's why I say allegedly. I saw this in a couple of different articles about this. We don't fucking know for sure if that's true, but it doesn't really
it's impossible
matter.
To know in these 16th century crimes.
Straight up. It doesn't really matter. I just thought I would include it as, a little moment of intrigue. Yeah. And also, like, these are the kinds of stories that will often be spun about women to take the blame off of the men who also were complicit in his murder. Mm-hmm. Yada, yada, yada.
She snapped.
She fucking snapped. Rightfully so. Mm-hmm. I will never scrape a scabies. I'm just not going to do it. I'm sorry. It's not fucking happening. Mm-mm. So the Cenci family was arrested, including one of her like little brother, who we'll kind of get to. And despite Beatrice's claims that she and her family had acted out of desperation due to years of abuse, they were subjected to brutal torture. Beatrice, Lucrezia, and their accomplices were found guilty of parricide, so the murder of a parent, a crime viewed as particularly heinous in that era when it happened to the patriarch of the family. Didn't seem to be particularly heinous when it happened to the women in the family, including the matriarch of the family. But if you kill the dad, you're in big fucking trouble. Then there are
repercussions.
Right. So what I'm about to read next is a phenomenal excerpt from an academic paper that I found that talked a lot about Beatrice, more through the lens of, it's like an art history paper, because a lot of like beautiful art of Beatrice was created during the trial or like while she was in prison, but also in the years following, because she kind of became like a symbol of resistance. Oh. So I found this cool academic article. We'll have it linked in our sources so you could check it out too, but this kind of describes the event. So it says, quote, deep in the night of the 8th of September, 1598, the assassins gathered. Beatrice, with her steely resolve, exhorted her co-conspirators onwards to strangle, to pierce his eye with a stiletto, and to dispose of his body off the balcony. Yes. As they enacted the deed, Beatrice declared, my breath comes, methinks lighter, and the jellied blood runs freely through my veins.
Oh, she is excited.
Ready to be free. She's ready to fucking go.
Yeah.
The crime was soon discovered, and the conspirators arrested and brought to Rome for the trial. These trials legally necessitated torture of all suspected to be involved.
Oh.
Only Beatrice, firm in her conviction that she had committed no wrong, refused to confess. Even as her limbs were torn on the rack, she eloquently disputed the accusations and questions put to her by the tribunal.
Yes, bitch.
The Pope, as covetous of her family's wealth as Francesco had been of her beauty, returned a new board of inquisitors to elicit the confession needed to send her to death. It was only the threatened indignity of having her hair shorn that broke her spirit and dragged a confession from her. So she didn't talk while being stretched on the rack. But
Bones
they were like
broken.
But they were like, own up or we're going to cut your hair. And she was like, fuck.
Oh.
All right, fine, I did it. I love her.
God. I love her,
I
too.
love her.
She is the moment.
She is the fucking moment. Despite popular public support for the family, especially for Beatrice as an aggrieved, pious Roman maiden, Pope Clement VIII, the Eighth,
V
V8, V111, VIII, mandated their executions. He had at first thought to commute at least the women's sentences to life imprisonment due to the extenuating circumstances of Francesco's cruelty, but 3 days before they were to be executed, word reached him of the murder of another wealthy aristocrat by her son for refusing to make a will in his favor. So he's like, shit, this is going to become a pattern. We have to make what is it called?
Example.
An example of Beatrice and her stepmother and her two co-conspirators. So as a deterrent to other children who might want to rid themselves of their parents, and so that he, the Pope, could claim Francesco Cenci's vast wealth for the papal coffers.
Papal coffers. Papal
Coffers. Papal, tomato. I don't know.
PayPal coffers.
PayPal coffers. He needed his PayPal balance to go up. Clement reinstated the sentence of beheading for the women.
Oh, that's a really great pope that we had back then.
Straight up. So, I don't know, torture them for like weeks, months, however fucking long, threaten to cut her hair. Now we're going to censor them to death and we're going to cut off their heads. Okay, bye.
Don't cut off my hair.
Please don't cut off my hair. On September 11th, 1599, never forget, the executions were held at Castel Sant'Angelo, an ancient fortress overlooking the Tiber, I think. River. Beatrice, at just 22 years old, was beheaded, and her brother was tortured and then executed.
22?
22. The executions were a grim spectacle witnessed by crowds of Romans. People had come from, like, this was a huge deal at the time. And the trial and the torture and the trying to get the executions had taken a decent amount of time. I think that, like, the crime happened and then it was almost a year before they were executed. So, like, people knew this story very well. And obviously everybody in the village attended and came to Rome to see this go down. But a lot of just people living in Rome who had no direct connection to Beatrice were also spectators. That was the vibe. That's what people fucking did. Another excerpt from that amazing paper that I was talking about, which again, it'll be linked in our sources. Highly recommend giving it a read. Quote, giving her own dowry to pay that of 50 poor girls and sewing her own dress for her execution. The fateful day, 11th of September, 1599, arrived. Legend tells us that Guido Reni painted his celebrated portrait of Beatrice the night before her execution in her cell in Castel Sant'Angelo.
Oh my God.
Her youngest brother, Bernardo, spared from death due to his tender age and mental frailty, was nonetheless forced to watch the executions of his stepmother, his sister, and his brother, and the two accomplices, and fainted at the sight of his family's impending doom. Lucrezia was the first dispatched. Beatrice mounted the scaffold second. She
with her mom's blood all over.
Yeah.
Warm and slick with her mother's blood.
She presented her arms to the executioner to tie, exhorting him to bind her body for its punishment, and that he, quote, likewise unbind my soul for its eternal salvation.
She is a bad bitch.
Yeah, what incredible last words. Upon the block, she calmly laid down her head, and with a single stroke of the sword, she was put to death. Her body was displayed until nightfall when she was taken to San Pietro in Montorio and redressed in pure white garments for burial. A plain, unnamed stone marks her resting place.
Wow.
Which is apparently in some like little kind of chapel, catacomb type thing. near Rome. So maybe we can find that. Take a little lift to this bridge. Say hey to Ghost Beatrice. Take a little lift to that chapel. Leave flowers with Ghost Beatrice.
Pour one out.
Pour one out. Many in Rome sympathized with Beatrice and her family as her father's cruelty was well known. Everybody knew this guy was a fucking piece of shit. I'm sure everybody was like, duh. Like, it's about damn time. And yet, they're all being executed. And like, obviously, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. I get it. But some people, like this motherfucker, do not deserve a day of peace. And clearly the justice system was not fucking working because he kept paying his way out of it. And these women were trapped. They were held hostage in this castle. I truly am like, this is self-defense. They drugged him. They stabbed him. They chucked him in the trash pile. Like, sorry about it. I don't know where to find empathy for this motherfucker. I don't know where to find it.
Did those conspirators get the death penalty also?
Yes. Yep. So the servants that helped.
Olympio.
It was a bloodbath. Her tragic fate, combined with her beauty and youth, turned her into a symbol of resistance against tyranny. In fact, a popular legend says that when Beatrice was executed, a great number of Roman citizens wore mourning garments, silently protesting the papal decision.
Ooh.
So they showed up dressed to make a fucking statement to bear witness to this injustice of them putting her to death for ridding the world of this fucking monster that had been basically holding her and her stepmom captive. Following her execution, the story of Beatrice Cenci took on a supernatural dimension. The Sant'Angelo Bridge, which leads to the fortress where she was executed, is said to be haunted by her restless spirit. Those brave enough to be near the bridge on the night of September the 11th sometimes claim to catch a glimpse of her ghost, dressed in white, appearing at the stroke of midnight, holding her head in her hands.
Whoa.
Can you imagine?
That'd be so cool.
That would be unbelievable to witness.
I love that.
Unfucking believable. While the truth behind the ghostly sightings remains a matter of belief, the tragic life and death of Beatrice Cenci left a lasting impression on Rome's history and folklore and art. I mean, beautiful pieces of art have been made in her likeness since then. Her story has inspired countless works of art, literature, and plays, turning her into a symbol of victimization and defiance in the face of cruelty. Her life has also been immortalized in various forms of literature. So we mentioned the painting of Beatrice Cenci by Guido Reni, which is on the drive, so you can take a peek of it. It's really beautiful. It's one of the most famous portraits of the Renaissance era. I didn't recognize it, but you are more cultured than I am, so maybe you will. It's this sort of...
the girl with the thing on her head?
Yeah, and she's
they both
turning...
have a thing on their head.
She's like looking back over her shoulder. It's the one that's like clearly a paint, like an oil painting.
Got it. It's beautiful.
It's really beautiful. It's really beautiful. The French writer Stendhal wrote about her, and the English poet Percy Bysshe Shelley also penned a play called The Cenci, which explored the psychological torment that she endured. It's a play in 5 acts, and I totally want to read it. It's about her life and about the murder. That's on my list. Maybe when we're done reading about the bubonic plague, we can do this play on the plane as well.
Yep. We'll perform the play on the plane.
Yeah. And then they'll be like, oh my God, can we please upgrade you to first class? And we'll be like, absolutely. We thought you'd never ask.
And they'll be like, would you like another Bloody Mary?
Would you like another Bloody Mary? Would you like to lay down in Delta One? We'll be like, yes. We would very much like that. And also, thank you for your time.
And also, you're welcome for this
and also you're welcome
performance.
For our performance. And we can do it again. We can revive this on the way back with maybe some more context of the Roman culture that we can infuse into the story, into the play, bring our own experiences forward.
We should adapt it into a musical for the flight home.
Oh, I like this. I like this. We'll get the travel team involved. We'll put together a number. There's brilliant people coming on this trip. So I think this is doable. I really do. So in conclusion, the haunting tale of her ghost has become a staple of Roman ghost stories. Like if you Google her, a lot of the top hits are like ghost tours of Rome or, Roman tourism. Like this is a well-known ghost story.
She's like the Sleepy Hollow of Rome.
Yeah, and Rome already has rich supernatural lore. A lot of shit's gone down there.
Lot of people died.
Lot of people. So that speaks to how pervasive and impactful her life, her story of her death was to the culture, that like this girl's story has kind of withstood the test of time and people still go to the bridge trying to see her all these fucking years later.
She's a feminist icon.
Pretty much. The legend of Beatrice Cenci's ghost persists to this day, with many Romans believing that the tortured spirit, oh my God, I'm so drunk, spirit of Beatrice roams the bridge seeking vengeance or redemption. The Sant'Angelo Bridge is now one of the most famous ghostly spots in Rome, drawing tourists and believers alike who want to witness a glimpse of the past.
Ooh. And
that's my story.
Of a beheaded girl. Good job.
Just a cutie with her own head in her hands. The bridge is also fucking creepy.
It's so creepy. I was going to say that.
It's roll creepy.
It's like drippy, mossy. There's like winged angels on it.
It's nasty. It's some nasty shit. And then, there's a modern day photo of the quote unquote castle, but it was just like their house where they lived. And it's so funny because it was described as like such a dump where he locked them up. It was like, this place is a fucking dump and he's trapped his wife and his children here and they fucking hate him and he has scabies and they murdered him and nobody's sad about that. But basically they really just came down on them because like the papacy wanted his money. And if they didn't fucking have these convictions, then they couldn't get his remaining fortune.
Oh.
So that was like a big part of why she is also a symbol of resistance, because what little money she had to herself was for her dowry. It would have gone to her husband who married her, whoever that may be. And they couldn't claim that money even after she, for whatever fucking reason, like whatever laws were in place, even after she was convicted. So she was able to leave that. She left it to like a friend who did go on to have children and, like poor women that she was connected with in her community. She left that money to, allegedly. But everything else that was wrapped up in the Cenci family fortune was claimed by the papacy, the pap smear.
The Pope.
So that was obviously a compelling reason, even though, in modern times, I think that any good lawyer could have spun a very compelling self-defense, duress, extreme extenuating circumstances defense for them.
Well, they probably would have had a grip.
Yeah, and the Catholic patriarchy wanted their fucking bag. This guy had been skirting them forever. He had been like rejecting the papacy in the family for all these years. He'd been buying his way out of fucking jail. They were sick of his shit. So they were just as happy he was dead as fucking anybody else, but they had to put somebody on the literal chopping block so they could get his money. Yeah.
Dang.
Fucked up. Again, some things never fucking change, man. Some things never fucking change.
I hope Beatrice is resting wherever she may be.
I hope so too. God bless her.
Well, good story. And I think that was a great episode. And I'm sure we're having so much fun in Italy right now.
Indeed we are.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for listening. And we'll see you next week.
Indeed. Bye-bye.
Arrivederci.